Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. Children, let us continue with the lesson that we were doing last time. So we were doing the poem from standard 10th English and the name of the poem was The Pulley, and it was exactly not about this device or this mechanical thing that you can see on the screen, but it was a metaphysical poem. It was about the relationship between a God and human beings, isn't it? Now we learned the entire poem. I explained the meaning of the poem and I also told you that this is a metaphysical poem. We saw how such poems are related to things which are not ordinary. Alright, when we talk about things in life which are a little above the thinking of normal people, then those kind of poems are called as metaphysical poems. But then we tried to understand the meaning of a poem in a very simple manner. Now children, if you look at the textbook, you will see that there is a little bit of a grammar part along with this lesson. When I say grammar, in the poetry, you will see that most of the exercises in grammar are related to figures of speech. Okay, so we have quite a number of figures of speech to do in this particular lesson. So let us try and do some of the grammar part from this particular poem, The Pulley, today. Now before we actually go there and we do the grammar, let us try and understand the main crux or the main idea of the poem. So what did the poem want to tell us? That God gives human beings, man, he gives him everything that he has. Okay, so if you remember what the poem was about, you will remember that God pours from his cup of blessings, isn't it? And he gives him all the blessings possible. But then he reserves something for himself. That is, he does not give man everything. What was the reason for that? We saw that the reason for that was if he gives man everything, then human beings will stop valuing God, or human beings will stop thinking of God and connecting with God. So God was a little selfish over here because he wanted to still keep his connect with his creation, and that is why the poem Pulley. So in this lesson, pulley here, it signifies restlessness. So God did not give us human beings rest. Now here rest does not imply physical rest. Okay, we sleep for 8 hours in a day, we take enough of rest. Now this is a metaphysical poem. So here rest does not mean sleeping or taking a physical break from work, but here rest means rest, peace of mind. Okay, rest of the soul, rest for the soul, you can say. So this restlessness, he did not give us a rest, means we are restless, and this restlessness is the pulley between human beings and his creator, the God. Okay, so now we also saw that restlessness acts like a pulley which binds humans to their creator. So somewhere or the other, we always rush back to God. We go to him for help, for guidance, for peace of mind. So imagine if this pulley of restlessness was not there, what would have happened? No one would have turned to God, or no one would have looked forward to worshipping or praying to God. So this was about the meaning of this particular poem. Now, as I told you, we will try and see some exercises from the lesson. So this is actually a screen print of your textbook, children, where you can see the various figures of speech which have been mentioned. I told you, you have quite a number of figure of speech to be done in this particular lesson. So you have antithesis here, alliteration, inversion, you also have pun, metaphor, repetition.
Okay, so these are the 6 figures of speech that you have to do in this lesson. But what are we going to do? We are not going to do all 6 of them. Then you will not be able to understand them in detail. So we're going to learn them in detail. And let us see which are the 6 figures of speech in this poem again. So we have antithesis, we have alliteration, and then we have examples of inversion in this poem. We have examples of pun. The poet has used metaphor, and the poet has used repetition. So what we are going to do today, we are going to break this up into 2 pieces again, okay, into 2 parts, and we will do antithesis, alliteration, and inversion today. So we can do it peacefully, and we can do it with a lot of examples, and we need not rush through the lesson. All right. So we are going to first start with antithesis. We will see what the meaning of antithesis is. We will do certain examples together. We will also try and do an exercise, and then we will go to alliteration. We will follow the same pattern, and finally we will do inversion today. Pun, metaphor, and repetition. You will have to wait for my next video. Okay? So come on, let's start now. So which is the first figure of speech that we will do? It is antithesis. Okay, so now let us look at the meaning of antithesis first before going to the definition, examples, etc. Antithesis, there is one word that you should look at or pay attention to, and that is the word anti. So what does anti mean? Anti means opposite. Okay, so if opposite, or it means an opposing idea. When I say antithesis, it means an idea which opposes the one which is already given. So saying the opposite of something. Alright, so now let's see what the meaning of this particular figure of speech is. So in antithesis, a striking opposition or contrast of words or sentiments are made. So there is a contrast of either words, or there is a contrast of sentiments or feelings which are made in the same sentence. Why is antithesis used in poetry? It is used in order to emphasize upon a particular point, or to draw the attention of the reader to a particular point, or just in order to make the line more effective and attractive to read. So children, like I told you, I must have told you this earlier also when we were learning poems, that figures of speech are used in poetry in a form of a literary device. So what is a device? A device is something which makes your work easy. So when we apply such literary devices to poetry, the work of the poet becomes easy. So the people who are reading also, for them also it becomes easy. Okay, so the figures of speech are nothing but they are literary devices. So why do we use antithesis as a literary device? In order to draw the attention of the reader. Okay, so now let's move on and let's see something else about antithesis. So we will see some examples. So see, man proposes, God disposes. So this is one example here. There is one more example, that is man and God. Man is something which is human, and God is something which is divine. Proposing something means making a plan for something, suggesting something. And disposing something means negating something, that is saying no, we do not want this, disposing. So disposing could be either disposing an object, or disposing could also mean disposing an idea. Okay, so man proposes and God disposes. So this is an example of antithesis. Look at the next line. To err is human, to forgive is divine. So making an error, to err means to make a mistake. So when someone makes a mistake, what do? You need to forgive that particular person. If someone is making a mistake, you need to forgive that particular person. So erring and forgiving are two opposite concepts. There is one more here, like in the previous line. So you have human and divine. Human means what? People like you and me, we are human. Divine means something connected to God or to some higher power. Okay, so err and forgive are two opposite concepts or contrast words, and human and divine are again here two opposite concepts. Moving on, speech is silver, but silence is golden. So see, when you speak means you make noise with your mouth. Okay, when you're silent means you're quiet. Okay, so see, speech and silence, they are two opposite concepts. Silver and golden also you might suggest, but I feel that they are not opposite concepts, in the sense that gold and silver are both expensive metals. One is more expensive and the other one is less expensive. So they are not contrasting ideas according to me. Okay, so these are all examples of antithesis. Let us look at some more examples. So patience is bitter, but it has a sweet fruit. So bitter and sweet, opposite. Bitter is something which tastes very bad in your mouth, and sweet is something which is a welcome taste. Okay, it's never too soon, it's never too late. So what are the opposite concepts or words or ideas in this line? It is soon and late. It is related to time. Soon means earlier and late means later. Alright, so these were all various examples of antithesis. Now, since we have seen the meaning and definition of antithesis, we have seen some examples of antithesis, let us also look at some, you can say, exercises or questions. So, a part of life is a dash. So now, life is the word to which you have to write the opposite concept. Next example, even happy people are sometimes a dash. Very simple this is, isn't it? Next, the dash will eventually come out after the rain. So there are 3 examples for you to solve. Come on, let me solve at least one of them for you. So the part of life is death. Isn't it simple? Now I could have tried to make it a little more difficult by not highlighting the word for which I want you to give the opposite. But then I thought I will give you another assignment here. So since now you know how simple and easy it is to write lines where there are antitheses, you will make 3 sentences of your own in which you will include, and those should be examples of antithesis. That is, you will include opposite contrast ideas and words, and they will automatically become examples of antithesis. So this is your assignment as far as this part of the lesson, that is antithesis, is concerned. Moving on, let's go to the next part. Let's go to the next figure of speech that we have to do. It is a very interesting one, and also it is a very simple one. Okay. Now children, you will see that there are certain questions. Now you are not only studying, when you are talking about being in standard 10th, we are studying not only from the point of view of getting knowledge, but also there is a very important aspect to standard 10th, and that is getting marks, isn't it? So that is also very, very important. So you are studying not only as a student, but you're also studying as a person who's going to appear for an exam. And there you have to try and score marks. So there are certain questions, children, where you can sure shot earn marks. And this figure of speech alliteration is one of them. There is no way, no chance where you will be able to miss marks if you attempt a question on alliteration. It is that simple. Alright, so having started on that positive note, let us see that whenever we get a question on alliteration, we will be able to solve it and get all the marks possible over there. Let's try and understand what is alliteration. Like I told you, it's very simple. The use of the same sound at the beginning of words that are near each other. So, or we can say, instead of saying near each other, we can also say words that are in a same sentence or a same line. For example, see the sentence here. Sarah's 7 siblings like to sing. So at the beginning of most of the words, you have the sound of the same letter S. That is the sound S. Sarah starts with an S. 7 starts with an S. Siblings starts with an S. Like to sing starts with an S. So there is alliteration in Sarah, 7, sibling and sing. The 4 words start with the same sound. So this example is an example of alliteration. Isn't it really very simple? Okay. So this is how you understand and you recognize statements or sentences in which examples of alliteration is used. Let us look at some examples of alliteration now. Curious, cats can catch a cold. So see, so simple it is, isn't it? According to the 10th standard level, it is really simple. But since it is there in our textbook, children, it is there in our syllabus, we have to do it, isn't it? So curious starts with the k sound. Cats starts with the k sound. Can, k again. Catch, again k. A cold, again a k. So we have the sound of the letter C being repeated everywhere. So it is an example of alliteration. Next one. Frogs frequently frolic in fresh water. So you have the f sound. Okay, the sound of the letter F, which is the f sound. So frogs frequently frolic in fresh water. So sounds of the letter F is repeated in the words frogs, frequently, frolic and fresh. Alright, next example, 11 elegant elephants and an elderly elk. So you have the sound of the E as in E. 11 elegant elephants and an elderly elk. Alright, so the sound of the E is repeated, and that is why it is an example of alliteration. Next one, come on, try and recognize and try and understand which sound is repeated. Yes, it is will Walter wait for wonderful Wendy? So the sound of the W in the W. Will Walter wait for wonderful Wendy? Alright, and the last one, J, the sound of G. German, gentleman, generally, give doesn't come in the list, gems as gifts. So you have German, gentleman, generally, gems, one set of alliterated words, and give, gifts, the second set. Alright children, so these are all examples of alliteration. Alliteration is not only easy to do, but it is also fun to do. Okay, so let us look at some examples here in the exercise. So you have a word box given there. So in the word box you have some words which you will choose and you will try and put it in the grid below. Now I have already done 5 for you. The remaining 5 will be homework for you. So let's see. Tony lost 2 teeth. So see, Tony and teeth, 2. The sound of the letter T, the T sound. Alright. Then you have Daniel's dog drank from the drain. Okay. Then you have Jimmy saw a jellyfish jiggle. So these are all words which I've picked up from the word box. Then you have Becky baked brownies, isn't it? And then you have Cuddles the cat caused a chaos. Now the remaining 5, let me suggest you can first find out the answers from this box like I have done, and then you can try and find your own word and write it here. For example, see, Rudolph rose and ran You should actually, from the box, if you search and write, you should write rapidly. But instead of rapidly, think what can you write? Rudolph rose and ran dash. Instead of rapidly, think of another word which you can write here. But on the condition that the word should start with an R, or the sound of the letter R. Okay? And it should have some meaning also. You cannot just write anything. For example, you cannot write Rudolph rose and ran rain just because rain starts with an R. Alright, so this is the second assignment for you as far as the second figure of speech is concerned. Let us move on and let us go to the last figure of speech that we have to do for today, and that is inversion. So inversion is also called as anastrophe. This figure of speech inversion, we also call it as anastrophe. Let us see what the meaning is. So when you say inversion, what is the meaning of inverted commas? Do you know what inverted commas are? Inverted commas are commas which are put upside down. So here inversion doesn't exactly mean upside down, but it means changing the order, making something ulta pulta. Okay? Now ulta pulta distance will, the concept is the one which is above will come down and the one which is down will go above. But here it is placement from left to right and right to left. Okay? So a change in the normal word order we will say. Otherwise, if you want to exactly put it in the definition language, we will say that it is a change in the normal word order, especially placing the verb before the noun. There are some other ways also which you can do inversion, which I will tell you now. But sometimes when you place the verb before the noun, it is called as an inversion because the verb should come after the noun, isn't it? We say John played. We do not say played John. Alright, but sometimes poets do these things. They use such kind of techniques just in order to attract your attention towards that particular line. Why? Because these are all literary devices. We discussed this, isn't it? So a device is something which you make use of in order to make your work easy. So here the poet's work becomes easy because you are attracted to that particular line, and your work becomes easy because you understand it better and faster. So what is the meaning of inversion once again? It is a figure of speech or a literary device where a change in the normal order of the words is done. So the normal word order is changed. See, for example, it has the effect. Why it is done, I just explained it to you. It has the effect of adding emphasis, drawing attention, and causing the reader to consider the idea differently. So it is just to add a little bit of interest to what you are doing. Okay, just to make it a little different and just to draw your attention and just to give it some more weight. That is adding emphasis. All right. Let us look at some examples. See, one example we will see here. I will show you some more examples later. Impossible is nothing. So children, if you have to tell your friend something about impossible being nothing, what will you say? You will say nothing is impossible. See, we will study and we will get 100 out of 100. Nothing is impossible, you will say. But if a poet has to write it, see, the poet writes it as impossible is nothing. Okay, so it is a example of inversion. Now, like I told you, let us look at certain types of inversions that you can see in poems. So sometimes the poets, they place the adjective before the noun it qualifies. For example, they say the girl brave, but when you write it commonly, you write the brave first and the girl later. So you write the brave girl. But if a poet wants to use it as a figure of speech, that is inversion, he will write the girl brave. Okay? Let us look at one more way in which inversions can be done. When you place a verb before its subject, that is before the noun. Shouts the policeman. So, normally how would you say? You would say the policeman shouts. Alright, you will not say shouts the policeman. You will say the policeman shouts. Next, placing a noun before its preposition. Okay, in this example, I want to tell you children that there is a small typing error. It should not be shouts, okay? It should be shout because it is policemen. So when there is a plural, then you will use a singular shout. Alright, so the policemen shout. So the S has been typed there by mistake. Moving on, placing a noun before its preposition. So you will say worlds between. Instead of saying between worlds, it is worlds between. So the between should come first and the worlds should go next in case it is not an inversion. So these are the different ways in which inversion could be used in a poem. Why have I told you this? So that when you are looking for inversions in a question which has been asked, you can always look out for these particular clues. Alright, let us look at some more examples now here of inversions. So a normal sentence and a sentence used with inversion. He reacts so quickly that no one can match him. So there is no need to say that there. That is why it is written in bracket. This is written as, so quickly does he react that no one can match him. Okay, so here the adverb comes before the verb. In the normal sentence, the adverb has come after the verb. He reacts is the verb, so quickly is the adverb. But when you have inverted the sentence, you have said, so quickly does he react that no one can match him. Isn't it an easy example? Next one. They are such wonderful players that no one can beat them. See how they have changed the word order. Such wonderful players are they that no one can beat them. So see how we have changed the order of the words, and therefore this sentence is also an example of inversion. Moving on, let's go to two more examples before we wind up the lesson for today. So if you want to talk about a picture which is really beautiful, what will you say? What a beautiful picture it is. Or you will say, it is a beautiful picture. You will say, it is a beautiful picture. But here it has been said in the form of an exclamation, and therefore what a beautiful picture it is. It actually means it is a beautiful picture. Okay, how wonderful the weather is today. So what do you want to say actually? You want to say the weather is wonderful today. So instead of saying it that way, you have wanted to make an ordinary sentence into an exclamatory sentence, and therefore you have reversed the word order. You have said, how wonderful the weather is today. Okay, children? So today we looked at the lesson, The Pulley, but then we did not read the poem and try to understand the poem because we have already done it in the previous video. So what we did here today was, we tried to understand certain exercises in grammar which are there in this lesson. And since it is a poem, we had exercises on figures of speech. And we had 6 figures of speech used or mentioned in this particular poem. But since we cannot look at all the 6 of them in a half an hour lesson, we looked at 3 of them here in this part of the video, and the remaining 3 we will address it when we come to the next video. So in this particular video, we talked about 3 of the figures of speech. Which was the first one? It was in antithesis, where we talked about opposite ideas being used in one sentence just for making it a little bit more attractive. So that was the device used by the poet. Then we looked at alliteration, and when I told you about alliteration, remember I told you that it is one of the most easy literary devices or easy figures of speech that can be learned, and you can get full marks, you can score marks to the maximum as far as this particular figure of speech is concerned. And the last one which we did was inversion, where we tried to understand that inversion means where the order of the words are changed. And we also looked at certain clues or certain tips on how inversion can be used in a sentence in poems. So children, that was all for today. Now when I come up with the next video, that is in the next time we meet, I will be teaching you the remaining 3 types of figures of speech in detail like we did it today.
So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learned a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.